this message.
Assalamu alaikum, family. It's your brother Landon X. This is Sister Shauna Joy X, and this is Revolutionary Relationships. And listen, what we're going to talk about today is the dynamic of using atonement. Atonement, the same tool that was used in the Million Man March 25 years ago. We're going to deal with using that and how it can be used in terms of relationships. Atonement in relationships, and why I personally believe, and I'm pretty sure that she believes, that is absolutely mandatory, even before you get into any type of courtship. But again, it's atonement in relationships. We're going to deal with it. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
I was told to deliver this message.
And we back, family. All praises due to Allah. Revolutionary Relationships. Again, Brother Landon X, Sister Shauna Joy X. And as you can see in that caption toward the top, we are dealing with the dynamic of using atonement, not only in relationships that already exist, but even before you even pursue or find yourself in a relationship or marriage or courtship, whatever you want to call it. But let's go ahead and start off in the proper fashion. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, who mercifully appeared to us in the person of Master W. Fard Muhammad, to whom praises are due forever, plus 1,000 days. As far as I'm concerned, I further bear witness that Muhammad is his messenger, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, to be right and exact and down to the modern times. But I would know nothing of either one of those individuals if it were not for the divine leadership, the divine teaching, and divine guidance of this man right here, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And in those three great names, I greet the NationTown family in the words of peace we said in the Arabic language of Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
So like I said, we are dealing with atonement in relationships. And we basically, in our we participated in a beautiful marriage retreat a couple of months ago, and me and my wife came to the understanding that, atonement is not just for the brothers as it was in 1995, the historic Million Man March, and we just passed through the 25th anniversary of such. But it can also be used not only in relationships, but also prayer. But I took another look at it and I said, wow, this is something that could really deal with a lot of issues that we have when it comes to relationships and when it comes to dealing with self-improvement and self. So we're going to get into that. But first, we have a couple of wonderful announcements before we get started. First of all, family, NationTown family, this is the 3-year anniversary of NationTown TV. 3 strong years, started from the bottom. Now we here. We have about 7,100, 7,000 and some change loyal followers. We want to sincerely thank all the NationTown viewers. Without you, we'd be wasting our time. So we want to thank y'all. Y'all can also show us love. Y'all can hit us up at $NationTown. It's $NationTown, no TV at the end, just $NationTown. And go ahead and hit us up with 50 cents, $1, a rack, 2 or 3 racks, $1 million.
Whatever you find in your heart.
Hey, whatever it is, whoever hit us with the million, you can have all of this. You can, I don't know about her, but you can have me. I'll come and clean up your house. You know what I mean? Fix something. I do something around your house if you hit us with the milli. But definitely show your love to your NationTown family. But yeah, it's been 3 years. And the beautiful thing is that, and I had this experience today. I had a brother come up to me and tell me, how helpful this revolutionary relationship series has been to him. And we've seen a couple of our past viewers actually go from single to courting to married. That's the beautiful thing about getting a little bit of time up under your belt. And most recently, the marriages in the nation and amongst the believers has been, crazy. And I love the fact that these marriages are coming in all shapes and sizes. It's not just, young first-time marriages, and we're not taking credit for it, but we are. But it's that's the thing. You gotta make, our enemy makes his lifestyle and his things fair seeming by putting the agendas in his TV and his shows and his music, and then we got to do the same thing and make a married and committed life fair seeming. And I would like to think that we doing a halfway decent job at doing that. And let me go ahead and show you who I'm talking about. My beloved brother Sensei. He's like a 8,000 time black belt. I know he look peaceful right there. He is a peaceful brother, but please don't run up on him. But he just yesterday and his lovely new bride, Sister Janine Muhammad, their names even sounded like Jabbar and Janine. Aww. They are together, and they, he kept me in the loop through the whole courtship process. I've been so excited for our brother. So if you happen to, be Facebook friends with them or otherwise, definitely hit them up and give them a congratulations. They just got married in the Atlanta area yesterday. The only problem I have with this marriage, the only issue I take with it is that Sister Janine stole our brother. She kidnapped and hauled our brother away. He was in Los Angeles. Now he's going to be in Atlanta. But you know what? He deserves it. I don't really know my sister yet, but I know she deserves it. And he been smiling from here to here for the last year or so. So I know that my sister is doing something right, and that he feels confident in it. And I really, I wish the best for my brother. He's one of them brothers that you really root for in everything, but especially because it's like a handful of believers, that I know personally, and they're single, and I'm just committed to seeing that change, and no matter what I gotta do. You know what I mean? So I'm going to scratch him off the list. It's a couple of other ones. Some of y'all probably watching right now. I got y'all next. I got the red dot on your head. Man, we watching you. But all praise is due to our live family. But definitely hit us up with your comments and questions. We definitely want to touch in, because keep in mind with revolutionary relationships, we really encourage the questions and the comments, because that's a major part of it. Because like I said, we dealing with a topic from the perspective of a cyber cipher. This is a group thing. It ain't no expert, because we definitely ain't experts. She tried to knock my head off just yesterday. So, you know what I mean? So if y'all, I'm going to let y'all know, man, just between me and y'all. If y'all see any random scars on my face, just, call the police. You know what I mean? Praise be to Allah. But so it ain't about us being no experts or nothing like that. It's about us coming together as black people. Even if you're not a registered member of the Nation of Islam, we're trying to bring something new, because our people are so disappointed. You talk to black women, they disappointed. They not happy with what they doing. You talk to black men, they disappointed. They say that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So what we're doing is just offering a different way of approaching this whole relationship thing. And of course, as you know, we call it revolutionary relationships because the most revolutionary thing that you can do as a black person, as an Aboriginal person, is to marry and love, a black or Aboriginal person of the opposite sex. So let's jump right into it. Shout out to all the family chiming in. Sister Antisha, Sherry Land Giles, Ina X Robinson, Brother Jermaine, Akil Aldu. I see you, fruit. All praises due to Allah. Definitely hit us up with your questions and comments. All praises due to our peace and blessings to you as well, Sister Antisha. So we're going to jump right into it. Jump right into it, family. So here's the thing. Like I said, we want to deal with atonement and how it can be used in a relationship. Now, for some of us, you might think that atonement is just like, a thing that the brothers do, like we did at Million Man March. It's something for everybody. But it's something that you could even do with yourself. It doesn't have to be a second party. And in fact, I strongly encourage it, because you're dealing with self. Because, let me say this, there's a tone amongst us, especially black people, a tone that we're dealing with where we think our issue in the relationship field is always somebody else's fault. It's always something that the other person is doing. That if you're a sister, it's because the men ain't doing X, Y, and Z. If you're a brother, it's because the sisters ain't doing X, Y, and Z. But what we want to get into is the idea that, sometimes you're wrong. Sometimes it's you. Sometimes you wrong. But what we do is, instead of just realizing that sometimes we're wrong within ourselves, we think it's the fact or the chance that we are wronged. Wrong, ED. WRONGED, like somebody wronged us. We got to kind of get out of that victim mentality, especially if you're single. It's just like it's a new slate. You started over. So we got to come over and overcome, I should say, the issues that we had in the past. And atonement with self is a good way to start. And also for those who are actually married, even in a courtship, it really ain't much you can do in a courtship where you should have to atone with your courtmate. That usually means you did something wrong, but hey, things happen. So we're gonna get into it. Once again, like I said, hit us up with your questions and comments. But first and foremost, I want to read something from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. In fact, he is the one that presented these 8 steps of atonement. And we're going to go through all 8 from the perspective of atoning with self for the sake of your current relationship or future relationship. And the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan says that the hardest step in the process of atonement is the first step, which is called pointing out the wrong. In all our marriages and in all relationships, there he is, he mentioned relationships, and these are the minister's words, there's offense. In all relationships, in all marriages, there's offense, meaning you offended somebody. As Muslims in our prayers, we say, I have been greatly unjust to myself, and I confess my faults. So if we are unjust to ourselves, then our relationship, our social relationships, we're going to be at some point unjust to somebody else. So in our relationships, there has to be a spirit of forgiveness. If somebody is doing you wrong, forgiveness cannot come just by you saying, I forgive, I'm sorry, my bad. Sometimes that's cowardly. How can I forgive if I haven't even approached you about what you said or did that offended me? It takes courage of a subordinate to talk to one in a position of authority and say, you wronged me. Furthermore, the minister says, now, when somebody points out wrong, the defense mechanism is what comes up. I'm going to read that again. Now, when somebody points out wrong, the defense mechanism is what comes up. You don't want to admit anything. When you are too arrogant, too self-assured to admit to your children, your wife, your husband, your friend or associate, when you are wrong, when they pointed it out, that wound cannot be healed. I'm going to read that again. When you are too arrogant, too self-assured to admit to your children, your wife or your husband, your friend or associate, when you are wrong, when they pointed it out, that wound cannot be healed. As you go up the ladder in life, somebody is going to do you wrong, or you are going to do somebody else wrong. But if there's dialogue or communication, if you can humble yourself to listen to somebody who wants to correct something in you, then you have to have a good ear. That's why Jesus said the kingdom of God comes through hearing. Atonement, reconciliation, responsibility. There isn't anyone who is going to do something for us. We're going to have to do it for ourselves. So I ask you to accept responsibility for your life. Go home and atone with your wife, your children, your fathers, your mothers. And I'm not going to add anything, but what we're talking about is dealing with yourself. And sit down and iron it out and come away stronger. So that's where we are, and that's what we're going to deal with. And everything you'll notice in these 8 steps, they can all be attributed to self. Now, when it comes to atoning with self, Sister Shauna, tell me what you think about that. Do you agree that it's something that can be done with self? Or am I up here, losing my mind? Let me know.
Well, first, let me open up with the salutations. Assalamu alaikum. I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, who came to us so mercifully and beautifully in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, to whom all praises are due forever. I further bear witness that the most honorable Elijah Muhammad is the exalted Christ and first begotten of the dead, and that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is the Son of Man and Jesus in our midst today. It is in those 3 great, holy, righteous, and most beautiful names that I greet you all in the greeting words of peace of Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Okay, yes, sir. Oh no, most definitely I agree. Atonement starts first and foremost with yourself. That's the order of everything. Allah created himself first. Then he created the black nation. Then he created the world. So everything starts with yourself. And it's an excellent concept and idea to begin atonement with yourself, because like my husband mentioned, it's like a prayer. When we go to our prayer rug, we should be confessing our faults. And that's the first thing that you have to do when we atone. We have to address what the fault is, what the issue is. And I apologize. I'm actually trying to get it pulled up, my list of my 8 steps very quickly. So we're getting the practice in when it comes, point out the wrong. There we go. I was looking for the exact words. So you're getting the practice in of pointing out the wrong when you go to your prayer rug and you take it to the God first, because we have to realize Allah, God is the center of everything. And we might have a wrong that we've wronged someone else, we've wronged ourselves, and we have to take that to the God, because you can't fault yourself if Allah is your creator and he holds no fault with you. Once you've taken it to him and he's already forgiven you. So we have to, when we get into the practice of atoning with self first, that helps us to build up the perseverance, the endurance to take it outside of self and go and atone with others, because that's a really hard part too, to atone with others who might say that you feel as though you faulted them, but you might feel, no, I didn't. But you've already built up that practice within yourself. You've already built up that forgiveness from Allah forgiving you, and then you're able to forgive yourself, and now you're on a really good track. And atonement isn't something that we should do once a year or every other 6 months, or just as someone brings it up to us. We should really get in the habit of striving to atone every single day, because again, absolutely, going back to the prayer, like my husband brought up, we confess our faults every day. Let's take it outside of the prayer rug, and let's carry it in our minds anytime. As soon as we do something and it hits you in your mind, like, ooh, go ahead and go through those steps within yourself. Go ahead immediately go through those steps with someone else as soon as you realize, or if it's brought to you, that you have wronged somebody.
Absolutely, absolutely. Shout out to everybody chiming in. Sister Mercedes X, Sister Antisha, of course, self-accountability. Sister Antisha says absolutely. Right. And Sister Mercedes says all facts. Now, the reason why I feel like this is important, it's obvious that it can be used, but here's why it's important. Because we have a really strange perception of how to approach relationships. Because you got to remember, in slavery, there were 3 sciences that were taken from us: the science of business, the science of warfare, and the science of mating. And mating only deals with sex when you're talking about animals. But when you're talking about human beings, the science of mating means us dealing with our mates. And one issue that I always see, even in the smartest black people, the smartest Aboriginal people, the smartest brothers, the smartest sisters, is that we take on and we look at relationships as if it's some type of gender hostage negotiation. Like somebody's being held hostage. When you have 2 hostages, or you have a hostage, there's always a give and a take. Okay, you need to do this, and then I'll do this. And if y'all did this better, and it's not even an actual relationship yet. We're not even talking about an actual marriage. We're talking about this imaginary marriage or relationship with a yet to be named man or yet to be named sister, and how she's got to come with this, and this for this brother. Or, she's not good enough. Or he's got to come with this, and this. That sounds like a hostage negotiation. So we have to understand that black love is not a hostage negotiation. And here's where it's really dangerous to even come, with that kind of mentality, family. Because in hostage negotiations, when you have a hostage negotiation, most police departments don't even have a hostage negotiator. They have to call the feds. And then the feds come in, and in that situation with the feds coming in, there's this FBI investigator that's trained and skilled to say all the things that the hostage taker wants to hear. And their goal really is to bust in that door and either kill the hostage taker or, just get in and get those hostages and get it over with. They're not there to give that hostage taker the ransom or give that hostage taker $1 million or if that hostage taker wants to sit down and meet with the president, they're not there to get at to him or her. They're really there to put a bullet in his head or arrest him, and get those hostages out of there. So what we set ourselves up for when we come to the point where we play this hostage negotiation is that we deal with these fake men and women out here in the world who they know. They on Facebook, they on social media, they on Instagram. They see what all the sisters are saying. So this brother then figured out, oh, sisters like to hear this. Sisters like to think this. So the brother could be living with his mama, living with his grandma, but he goes and gets a brand new BMW because you thinking, oh, I want a man that got things going for him or he has money. So you thinking that this brother is doing something because he pulled up on you in the BMW. Same thing with the sisters. Sisters are watching what the men are saying. Oh, I want a sister that does this and does that and can do that. So the sister go and buy her a cookbook, ain't never boiled water in her life. And then she go buy something from Boston Market, post it on Instagram like she cooked it herself. You know what I mean? And brothers like, oh man, she can burn, she can cook. And all she's really doing is being a hostage negotiator. She's saying, okay, I'm going to act like I'm going to provide all the things that you want, and then you run into something else once you actually get in the relationship or you get into marriage or you get into courtship. So let's stop playing the hostage negotiator and let's start dealing with ourselves. Because once you deal with self, that's going to attract the best possible man that can come in your life or the best possible woman, brothers, that can come into your life. So I wanted to deal with that. I wanted to get that out the way, is that we are not dealing with a hostage negotiation. Again, hit us up with your questions and comments. Don't forget that you can also contribute to the NationTown cause, whether it's, a quarter or $250,000, hit us up, $sign NationTown. So let's get into it. Shout out to everybody chiming in. Brother Roscoe F. Muhammad, assalamu alaikum, dear soldier. He said, ego must be checked first to eliminate the hostage negotiations. There it is, because the hostage taker always thinks he or she is the hero. They think that, okay, I'm taking these hostages and I'm making these threats because I feel like this, and this needs to happen. I'm tired of being the little man and the big man taking us down. So I'm going to take, somebody hostage and I'm going to demand this, and this. So in their mind, they're the hero. So we got to deal with ego. And that's why you got to deal with self. You got to deal with self first and foremost. So we're going to dig into it. The 8 steps of atonement. And like the minister already said in the part that we read, he said that the first step is usually the most difficult. Let's see what that step actually is. The first step is point out the wrong. Now keep in mind, this is self-atonement, dealing with self. Point out the wrong. The minister says the first stage is the most difficult of all, because when we are wrong and we are not aware of it, someone has to point out the wrong. So, okay, let's look at it like this. You're single. You've been in some relationships that maybe didn't work out. Okay, that's where you are right now. So let's point out the wrong in yourself. I know what he did and how in this Negro and that Negro. And brother, I know she did this, baby mama did that. She was always doing that. But you with yourself now. Remember, the minister said, when we pray, I confess my faults. Point out the wrong in yourself. I guarantee you, if it's difficult, if it's hard, or if you think you've never been wrong, and I'm talking to the brothers and sisters, you think you've never been wrong in a relationship, you were always the victim, then you need to start over. You playing yourself. You playing yourself. You playing everybody that know you. You playing yourself. Trust me. You did some wrong. Even if your reaction to being wrong was wrong, that's still a wrong. So you got to deal with that. Yes, ma'am.
Yes. We have a beautiful question from, or comment from Sister Ina that I wanted to make sure that we had a moment to address. Our beloved Sister Ina X. Robinson, she says, in relationships, since my learning in MGT class about atonement and someone pointing out the wrong, I'm good with that. I'm just not good at letting another sister, MGT, point out a wrong. So like my husband just said, and basically not him, but just mimicking the words of the minister, step number one, pointing out the wrong, that is a hard step. But what we want to strive to do, especially as believers, and it says anyone, period, is to look through the eyes of Allah God, and let's not get caught up on that step number one, pointing out the wrong, how that can be painful to us, and it can be a hard pill to swallow, and it can be something that we may not agree with when someone does point to that wrong. But if we stop there, we're missing out. That person who's pointing out the wrong to you, hey, they're going through their process and they're striving to complete, inshallah, which is step number 8, perfect union with God and each other. So we don't want to get caught up on that one step, because we are going to miss the progress of the end, which is the best part of the whole entire atonement process. And also, that's why we want to focus on self. If we start number 1 with ourselves, that we're going to start constantly searching ourselves for the wrong. So you're constantly looking for the wrong within yourself. So we're constantly, when we're looking for the wrong within ourselves, we're educating ourselves on who we are. And then it humbles us, so that if and when someone else comes to you and they point out a wrong, you're humbled enough to see from someone else's perspective and to take that. And my student minister, Abdul Malik, he really dropped some knowledge a few Fridays ago. And the question was asked, what if someone points out a wrong and you don't agree with it? And he said, well, I'm going to continue to go through those steps with that individual. I'll let them know I don't agree, I don't see your perspective, but I'm going to continue to go through those steps, because we still want to get to that perfect union. And you might not be able to see from their perspective, but just because you can't see from their perspective doesn't necessarily mean that they were wrong. So that was an excellent question, beloved, and we appreciate you. Come on, everyone else, with all your good questions and comments. Thank you so much, beloved sister. I pray that helps.
Absolutely. And let's not take the focus off of self. This is about self-atonement. Now, once you've already began the process of atoning with yourself, now you got to be a scientist and start looking for recurring themes in what other people are saying to you. Sometimes, like I heard the minister say, sometimes we get so caught up on what we think somebody's doing to us, and we lose sight of what they're doing for us. Everybody ain't trying to destroy you. And I'm talking to everybody that's watching, brothers and sisters. Everybody ain't trying to destroy you. Get that, that soap opera, reality show, drama mentality, where we think everybody's a hater. Everybody's just trying to stop us. Don't nobody want to see us happy. You have some people that really want to see you happy. And those people sometimes go the hardest on you. Sometimes they go the hardest because they see something in you that they feel like that you don't even see. So they feel like they gotta drill a little bit harder and go at you in a way that sometimes can be uncomfortable. But after you atone with yourself and you felt like, you know what, I talk too damn much, or you know what, I'm too judgmental of other people, or you know what, I'm boring, or you know what, I'm this, I'm that, and then other people. Go back into those past relationships. You know, don't throw away completely your past relationships just because they didn't work out. They didn't end with you, you know, riding off in the sunset with him or her. If you had 4 exes, ex-husbands, ex-wives, ex-boyfriend, girlfriend, court mates, whatever, and out of those 4, 3 of them said you talk too much. Mathematics is Islam. Islam is mathematics. That's 3 out of 4. That means, you know what? You might want to become a better listener. You might want to become a better listener. Because like I said, when it comes to pointing out the wrong, we got to step out of the victim mentality and know that sometimes, oftentimes, now listen, this I gotta let people know, because we believe in the Nation of Islam that Allah God appeared in the person of Master W. Fard Muhammad, who we feel like, lifted himself through the attributes of Allah to the supreme being. So if it happened once, it could possibly happen again. So if you're the supreme being and you are perfect and you're watching NationTown TV right now, then you could go ahead and log off. We're not talking to the supreme being. We're not talking to no perfect 99 attribute having, black folks, Negroes, Aboriginal people. If you got all 99 attributes and everybody else is the bad guy except for you, we're not talking to you. We're talking about those that know that they're not perfect. So we're going to move on to the next part of the atonement process, part 2. And part 2, as you see right here, it says acknowledge the wrong. Now, you might think this is redundant. Wait a minute, I already pointed it out. Now, remember, we talk about self. Okay, you pointed it out, now what? The minister says, so in this context, the word acknowledge means to the truth of the fact that we have been wrong. Acknowledge it. Now, like I just said, you want to be a mathematician, you want to be a scientist. If 3 out of 4 of your past relationships, they told you this, and that about yourself, then even if you still don't see it and you don't think that that's an issue with you, now you got to acknowledge that, okay, I don't feel like I talk too much, but 3 out of 4 told me that. What is it about me that puts that kind of image out there that I talk too much, or that I'm this, or that I'm that, or I'm inconsiderate, or whatever the case may be? Because if you're not that, okay, cool. You the supreme being. You ain't got no faults. But now you got to start asking yourself, what is it about you that's making all these people that really don't know each other? Most people, their exes in their past relationships and relations, they don't really know each other. So what is it that these separate people are coming up with the same idea of you? And most times, we know ourselves better than anybody else, better than your mama, better than your daddy, better than anybody else other than God. And that when they hit you, and that's usually when we get the maddest, when somebody point out something that we done already kind of figured out is a flaw of ours, and then they point it out, and then we really lose our mind. Now we start talking about people mama and all that because you didn't hit that sore spot. So I'm gonna read that second one again. Acknowledge the wrong. Acknowledge the wrong. Again, so in this context, the word acknowledge means to the truth of the fact that we have been wrong. So that makes it official right there. That makes it official. Brother Roscoe Muhammad says we must learn to walk with Allah through all of the steps of atonement. Keep Allah first. Absolutely. And that's what it is. That's self, examination, self-analysis and self-correction is exactly what this atonement process is for. So we're going to move on to number 3. Number 3 says confess. Confess fault. Confess fault. First, you confess the fault to Allah. That's who you gotta go to first. Confess it to Allah. Confess it to the God within you. Confess it to Allah, whatever name you want to call him. Confess it to him, to Allah God, and then to the person or persons whom your fault has affected. Now, again, we dealing with self. So the affected party is really you. Now, if you feel like you did something wrong to somebody in a past relationship and y'all done already moved on from each other, this don't mean go and call your ex from 10 years ago. You know, he married now. You know, he got babies running around. His wife answered the phone. Hey, this Shaniqua, I just want to talk to your husband and tell him how wrong I was when I threw that butcher knife at him. You know, almost took his eye out. No, don't do that. Don't do that. You dealing with self. So confess it to Allah and then confess it to yourself. Do you know that you have to forgive yourself? A lot of us walking around mad at the world, mad at the opposite sex, mad at white people, mad at dogs, mad at cats, is because they have not forgiven themselves for something. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Yes. Well, a lot of the thought actually just escaped my mind. What I wanted to say, but it was what was the point number 3 we just covered? Confess to Allah first. You know, that's key. And my husband really touched on what I wanted to say, where he said, you know, you can't hold fault with yourself over Allah. You know, He created you. Right. He created you. So what do you look like? Allah has already forgiven you, but you're still holding something against you. You didn't make yourself, you know? So that going to the confessing to Allah first is so key. And especially because, you know, when you take the next step after confessing to Allah, if you were to go to the person that you faulted, and let's say they're not willing to go through the steps with you. They don't want to accept your atonement. But you've already, your hands are clear. Your hands are clean. And when we're taking it straight to self, when we confess to Allah first, you're confessing to the Allah in yourself and the Most High Creator of Allah as well. So once you confess to Him, it's like it's almost like you done checked off both those boxes. With confessing to the Creator, and the Creator, or Allah, His essence, Him inside of you, the God inside of you. So you cannot, again, like I mentioned earlier, Allah is the center of everything. Once we take those steps towards Him, whether we know it or not, we can't even fathom how He's going to operate, but somehow, some way, it will be His will to make sure that confession and that you're following through is going to come to you. You might not even know, how do I even forgive myself for this? How do I let this go? You ease your mind. You've given it to the God. Absolutely. Let Him take the wheel.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now we're going to go to the next one. That was number 3. Number 4 is repentance. Repentance. That means feeling contrition. Remember that word, contrition, or self-reproach for what one has done or failed to do. Feeling contrition. Let's deal with that word. Let's clear that word, contrition. Contrition means the state of feeling remorseful and penitent. To those of you who probably grew up Catholic, you know what penitence is. You know, it's similar to confession, but it's also what you can do based on what you've done and what you've done wrong. The state of feeling remorseful and penitent. And the example they give is to show contrition for his crime. He offered to do community service. And that's kind of leading into the next one that we're going to get into in a minute. But that's what number 4 is, repentance. Sometimes you got to repent to yourself. You know, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad said every time he looking at the black man, he looking at God. You're a God. You're a God. So sometimes you got to repent to yourself. And again, a lot of us have not forgiven ourselves for things that probably even took place before you even started seeking out relationships, before you ever had, you know, your first courtship, your first boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. Sometimes you have not forgiven yourself for something that actually wasn't even your fault.
Wow.
But you haven't even given it enough thought to dig deep enough into that memory to think, damn, that wasn't even on me. But somebody probably put it on you, you know, at that time, and it just stuck in your mind. You came into agreement with it, but you gotta repent to yourself. And what are you gonna do? What are you actually gonna do? So that's number 4. We're gonna jump to number 5. We won't be on that long, family, but definitely hit us up with questions and comments, and we'll definitely get into it. Number 5 is atonement. Now, interesting. These are the 8 steps of atonement, but you don't actually run into atonement until number 5. And the minister said that means we must be willing to do something in expiation of our sins. We must be able to do something. And when I read that again earlier today, it got me to realizing that atonement basically means love. Because the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan taught us that love is not some fuzzy feeling in your chest when you see somebody, butterflies in your stomach. Oh, you know, you like him, sister, because, you know what I mean, he got waves in his hair, you know what I mean, he's 6 foot, you know, everything, you know, he he this, he that, brother, you know, you like the way her body is built up, you like her smile, her eyes, you know, so you feel some kind of way about it. That's not love. Love is duty. Love is what you do for that item, that thing that you say you love, you know, whether it's a certain lifestyle, a certain belief system, an object, you know, a material object, and a human being. What are you willing to do for that thing? What have you done? What do you wake up every day and do? That's what love is. And having said that, I feel like it's only right to actually listen to the minister as he goes into a little bit of detail of love and the true meaning of love. Let's check it out. This is the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan.
That the scripture's talking about, not this crazy love that you sing about. I love you, baby, until I find another baby. I'm crazy about you, baby, till I get crazy over somebody else. That's sick. That's lust. That's love on the basest level, the lowest level. But the love I'm talking about is what the scripture says when it says God is love. Stop. Let's reason with that. When you see the verb to be is, what is on one side of it is equal to what is on the other. So if you say God is love, you're saying that love is not that abstract emotion. Because God is not an abstract emotion. As God is force and power, and the magnificent creator, planner, designer, evolver, sustainer, maintainer of all that he creates, if that is God on one side, then love is force and power. Love is a creative thing that causes you to think and plan and design and evolve and nurture and maintain and sustain. And love will give you force to uphold what you love and destroy that which is against what you love. God is love. I want you to listen to me good. Love, it this sick emotion. I used to talk about love all the time. And one day the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, define it for me. And I went into this foolish Webster dictionary and I talked about love according to Webster, and the messenger looked at me and said, He said, brother, love is freedom, justice, equality. Wait, love is rooted in the three essential principles of life. When you talk love, L-O-V-E and L-I-F-E, same word. When you love, you're alive. When there's no love, you're dead. This is why the scripture said we can tell that we have passed from death into life because we love the brotherhood. So when you love one another, when something happens to your brother in Tupelo, you feel it in Chula, you feel it in Indianola, you feel it in Cleveland, in Biloxi, and Hattiesburg, you feel it in Jackson, you feel it in Holly Springs. But wherever you are, when something that you love is hurt, you ache when they ache. Freedom is love. When you love something, you
We back, families. Sorry about that little bit of a delay, but as you saw, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan pointing out what love really is. Love is duty. Love is force and power, and that's important to consider because there's a lot of people who think that, like I said, love is some type of fuzzy feeling. And one of the biggest issues, and one of the reasons why this is so important, this particular step number 5, is because we live in a time right now where there's a big lie that's being told to black people, particularly young black people, and particularly black women. There's this myth that you can be pro-black, that you can love your people, but not love black people. I'm going to say it again, that you can love your people, but not actually love black people. For example, unfortunately, over this this pandemic and this quarantine, we've had Breonna Taylor, we've had Ahmaud Arbery, we've had George Floyd. It's almost like every week we got another brother or sister being gunned down by the enemy. And we going on this kind of topsy-turvy roller coaster ride where we go up against each other. You know, black man versus black woman. You know, niggas ain't this. You know, women got to do this. Men ain't this. Women ain't that. And then Breonna Taylor gets shot. Now it's protect the black woman. And then that goes out of style. And then it's back. We back at each other's necks. And when men ain't this, women ain't that. And then George Floyd gets killed. Now it's like, okay, justice for George Floyd. It's like we got to understand that the love part has to come even when our blood is not spilled on the concrete. We got to learn how to love each other before, you know, we get accosted or we get killed. We got to get to that point where we know that if you really pro-black, there's no way you can be pro-black and be pro your people and you don't love your people. You can't be a pro-black woman. I'm sorry. You can't be a woman that's pro-black and you hate black men. And you think heterosexual black men are the scourge of the earth. I'm sorry, you cannot think that. That's not gonna fly. And brother, you can't call yourself some kind of conscious, woke, you know, revolutionary, and you hate the black woman. That just don't go together. Black lives have to matter in our relationships before it matters to, you know, the police or the government or City Hall or 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. I believe we have a question. In fact, I know we got a question. Is that what you have, a question?
Oh, no, I just wanted to, let me see.
Yeah, we got a question from the sister that asked the question, you know, how does courtship start? Could you read that question?
I lost that comment on my phone. Let's see.
Okay, the sister asked the question, you know, how does courtship start and when do we get to the requirements? Well, if you're a member of the Nation of Islam, if you're a registered member, what you want to do is get in contact with if you want to initiate it as the sister, you want to get in contact with your lieutenant, who would then get in contact with your captain. And if you have a particular brother in mind, or brother, you got a particular sister in mind, then they will, you know, send that information up to that brother or that sister, let them know that a courtship, it has been requested, that they've been requested in a courtship. Now, if you're not a registered member, keep in mind, we invite everybody, all Aboriginal people, to watch Revolutionary Relationships. Then you can just, you know, if you have a mutual friend with that person, you know, if it's a sister and you don't really want to go straight to the brother, you know, and be bold about it, hey, it's 2020, you might as well. But if you don't want to do that, then, you know, just go and say, hey, you know, invite them out to go somewhere. And make sure you do something that's where y'all can actually learn each other. Going to the movies is not a good courtship outing because both of y'all are your attention is focused on what's on the screen. Do something where y'all can be focused on each other, and make sure that y'all keep it, you know, courtship. Keep it courtship. Make it about. Keep it about dealing with each other and what it is, who you are and what they are. It ain't boyfriend and girlfriend. It ain't go together. It's about finding out. You can find out some of the red flags about him or her before there's any kind of commitment. And then that way you're not on social media, you know, all mad and bitter. And telling the world that all black men should jump off a bridge or women ain't ish and all of this. You don't have to get to that point. Sit down with that brother, ask him hard questions about himself. And brother, ask that sister hard questions about himself. Every episode of Revolutionary Relationship is still available on NationTown TV. I strongly advise going back to just go to videos on NationTown TV and scroll all the way back. We've been doing this for about a little over a year now. And you can go back to the first one, and we come straight out of the courtship manual of the Nation of Islam.
And sister, beloved, if you send us in our inbox for NationTown your email address, we will send you absolutely for free the courtship manual so you can read through it yourself. and
Absolutely.
see how we lay out, well, not we as in us, but the Nation of Islam, under the guidance of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, lays out the rules and the guidelines for proper courtship.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, there's also any other questions we can take a look at?
None that I see, but I did want to speak on
Yeah, go ahead.
point number 5. You know, the beauty about bringing it back to yourself is because we're repairing ourselves, and in that repair of ourselves, are also building value of ourselves. You know, if you are not willing to, if you don't kill your feelings, you know, and your emotions, if you don't, well, you don't have to kill your emotion, but if you don't train yourself to overcome your emotions or your feelings on a thing, when it comes to yourself, that's never going to be able to be trained and disciplined in yourself when it comes to anyone else. And when we're training ourselves, you know, one thing that we're taught in training ourselves is that the how to eat to live, practicing eating 1 meal a day and fasting helps us to discipline ourselves. So we want to discipline ourselves by placing a duty on yourself to not just say, you know, oh, this is what you did wrong, Sister Shauna Joy, but now I have to faith without works is dead. You can't just say it. Now you have to do something. Now you have to put some force and action behind that. Okay, I talk too much. Now I have to abstain. No, not me. Not, you know, of course not me. No, I'm just kidding. But you talk too much. If that may be your issue. Now, how do I abstain from talking so much? What duty am I going to place on myself so that, or discipline that am I going to put myself under so that I can control that? And if you're not willing to do that with yourself, that's, like I said, is going to build value in you and to help to give you self-mastery, then how are you ever going to do that with someone else? You know, you don't have enough love in yourself to make the necessary changes for you. So to do it for someone else, come on, it's impossible. So every time we start with self, we are really building a solid foundation to be able to go out into the world to be able to handle any and everybody else. And it's such a beautiful thing because, I mean, really, we're the hardest thing. Once you overcome yourself, when Allah created himself, he destroyed the impossible. So when you master yourself, you're going to destroy the impossible. And any and everything else that you want to do is going to be a small, tiny little stepping stone to what you just overcame. But you have to not just say it, you know, don't talk the talk, but you got to walk the walk as well. Put yourself underneath the discipline. Abstain from certain things that feed that negative issue in you that you're working to overcome, or put a duty on yourself that's going to help you to overcome that, you know. And then when it comes to others, it's going to be so much easier. Just think, you're in a marriage, you've already mastered yourself, and now it's just going to be like so much easier, like butter, to now that you have someone else to be able to overcome the issues, the new issues that's going to arise when you're forming a union between two people.
Absolutely. All praise is due to Allah, you know, and like the minister said, love is force and power. And you got to have that love for yourself. You cannot expect somebody to love you when you don't love yourself.
Right.
And look at it like this, you know, if you decided to get into the business of flipping a house, now, you know, I don't care if it's a shotgun, raggedy, you know, house that costs 25 G's or if it's a $25 million mansion. If you're in the business of trying to flip a house and then you buy a house, it's going to be difficult. You know, you're going to have to go through escrow and all of that unless you just drop down cash. But even then, $25,000 for a raggedy house, that's a really nice car. So you put a lot into buying this house, but now you're at the point where you want to sell it. What's the first thing you do? Do you just automatically put it on the market? No, you walk through the house, you go through every closet, you pull out every drawer, you look at every inch of the wall, because you know it's going to be people walking in that house, looking around and saying, you know, is this a house I want to raise my family in? So if you're about to sell this house, you want to rehab it. You want to make sure that if the flooring isn't right, if the roof isn't right, if you can make this part prettier than it is, you can make that part better than it is, then you would absolutely go ahead and do that to raise the chances of somebody walking through that house during an open house and saying, wow, this is a house that I can absolutely see myself committing to and getting a 15-year fixed mortgage, 30-year fixed mortgage, and paying a mortgage to, and working hard to stay in for the rest of my life or however long they're going to do it. But the approach that we take in courtship and in relationships is, you know, we buy the house sight unseen, and you know what, somebody gonna have to buy this house. And if they don't buy the house, there's something wrong with them. I don't care if the wall is knocked down, if it's a hole in the roof, you know, if the front yard ain't nothing but gravel and a couple of patches of grass, you know, you should still love this house and love this house as it is. You know, you can't do that in business. And in a lot of ways with relationships, it's almost like business in a lot of ways. So you got to make sure, you know, what's going on with yourself. Now, we're going to get into number 6. Let's make sure we checking for questions and comments. But with number 6, we're going to deal with forgiveness. Now, I personally think that this is one of the heaviest ones. Forgiveness. And here's why. First of all, let me read it. The minister says, forgiveness means to cease to feel offense and resentment against another for the harm done by an offender. It means to wipe the slate clean. I'm going to read it again. It means to cease to feel offense and resentment against another for the harm done by an offender. It means to wipe the slate clean. Now, we've been talking about self and about atoning with self, and we still are. And we not going to come off of that for this particular episode. But in this case, with number 6, that could be for self and for, you know, past relationships. You got to wipe that slate clean. Because what that does, if you haven't forgiven yourself, you still hung up on ex-boyfriend, ex-husband, ex-wife, you know, ex this, ex that, then that resentment will guarantee you will project. You will project. You will look at yourself and say, you know what, I'm this, I'm that, and I think everybody else is that too. Or my ex was this, my ex was that, my ex is this, so I think everybody else is that too. So if you don't wipe that slate clean, you know, imagine going to a restaurant and you find out that they don't clean their dishes. You know, they just knock the food, they just wipe the food off with their hand and then put your order on top of that after somebody else was licking the plate. You know, you got to wipe the slate clean the plate, and then put something new on top of it. A lot of times we don't do that, so we end up projecting. And we start projecting in ways that don't even have anything to do with relationships. Shout out to my sister, Sister Vicky Dillard. She been going hard as she always did, but she pointed out something where a sister in the political realm basically lied, saying that she said some foolishness about back in the day when black people first got the right to vote, that black women would withhold sex from their husbands if the husband intended to vote for the wrong candidate. Dumbest stuff I've ever heard in my life. But they fact checked this sister who was saying this, and it turns out it's absolutely false. What it was is that you had politicians that were going to black households, knocking on the door and talking directly to the woman, which is something you should never do if it's if it's a man and a woman. You know, you should talk to the man. But when they go straight after the woman, that tells you something. But they would tell the woman that, hey, you know, You know, the best person for you to vote for is Joe Biden. And if your husband look like he ain't gonna vote for Joe Biden or he ain't gonna vote at all, you should stop giving him some. And then he'll start, you know, so she told this lie, and Vicky Diller dug into this particular sister's past, and she came to the conclusion that sister was hurt. Sister was hurt. She had some past issues, and she was projecting her own relationship pain even into politics. You start to take, you'll take it to work with you. You'll take it to everything you do because you have not wiped the slate clean with yourself or with others. So number 6 is forgiveness. You got to forgive yourself. Anything you wanna add to that, dear sister?
You know, it just brings to mind, you know, I'm so terrible at quoting anything or anyone, but the verse in the Quran that says, you know, or I'm sorry, the Bible that says if Allah was to kill everyone who sinned, there would be no one left. So if that lets you know that he's not going to destroy us for our sins and our faults, he has forgiven us. So who are you not to forgive yourself and not to forgive others? Like, who are we? You are not greater. We, self-included, are not greater than the self-created one, the Most High God, Allah. So we need to strive to follow him and emulate him in all of his attributes. And us as Muslims, you know, we always say merciful, forgiving. You know, let's not just be a wordsmith. Let's not just spit these lyrics. You know what I'm saying? let's
bars.
Right. Let's live this. You know, let's really live it. So anything that we claim, that we believe, and that we know of Allah, let's strive to make that real within self. And if Allah God is off returning to mercy and forgiveness, then let's do the same, especially for ourselves. Because like we're taught, once you come into the nation, hey, your slate is wiped clean. I was like, oh baby, it's on. Like, that is awesome. But we know the very next moment you might get a stain on that slate. But go ahead and bring that to your prayer book, confess your fault, and then forgive. Don't keep piling up that junk, as my husband gave such a beautiful analogy on that plate.
All right, bars. All right, so now we're gonna move on. Let's go to number 7. Reconciliation and restoration. Reconciliation and restoration. It means to resolve differences and to establish or reestablish a close relationship between previously divided persons. To resolve differences and to reestablish or establish a close relationship between previously divided persons. And that could be just you. A lot of us done broke up with ourselves. You done broke up with yourself. You, like I said, it comes back to forgiving yourself. Forgiving doesn't mean acting like you're perfect and that you didn't do anything wrong. It means that you acknowledge. Remember, the number 1 was to point out the wrong. Number 2, acknowledge the wrong. So you're fully aware of the wrong. Now that you've done that, now let's get over it. Let's get over it. Let's clear that slate and get over it. I think we got a question.
Yes, sir. Our beloved sister, Antiasha Hall, she says, when someone chastises too much, is that a red flag or just correction? Go ahead, take that one up.
If they chastise too much, I mean, like I said, look for recurring themes. You know, once you about 25 or older, you've had a couple of relationships at that point or more. So you've had a few people tell you about yourself. And if somebody is a chastiser, now, first of all, if they chastising you and they can dole it out, but they can't take it, then that would tell you, okay, this is a person that just likes to pass judgment. But, you know, you're not really in charge of them. It's not until y'all get married that y'all have some kind of responsibility toward each other. So what about you? You know, ask yourself, is there any truth to what they're saying? You know, it really would make sense for somebody who's in a courtship or trying to get to know somebody and they just constantly chastising you. You know, especially if they don't even really know you. But if you're in a relationship and somebody's constantly chastising you, you know, even if the relationship eventually does not work out, even if it ends in divorce, when y'all divorce each other, now y'all both single again. So if you ignore everything that person was telling you, now you're going to run into another situation and they might see the same things that that person saw, and you're going to be back to square one. And that's really why a lot of us end up in this merry-go-round of relationships. So do you. Focus on you. If they saying you this, you this, you that, okay, let's see if I am. Let me go back into previous relationships. Let me go to my friends, my, you know, other people, friends that I don't talk to no more. Oh, I had that one friend that told me the same thing. I had that one ex that said the same thing. I had that other ex that said the same thing. Okay, you probably all of that. You probably all of that. But if you don't see any recurring themes, and this is somebody that's trying, sometimes people try to tear other people down because they think they have a problem with themselves. But there it goes, as they're projecting. They don't think much of themselves, so they feel like, oh, okay, I got a really good woman, or I got a really good man here, and I really don't think I deserve them, which is probably not true. Almost definitely not true. But now I'm going to tear them down, so I feel like I can knock them down to a size where they think they can do better than me, because I don't think much of myself. So it's kind of, but just focus on the truth of the matter. You know, deal with actual facts. If they telling you something that's completely, you know, you lie too much and you know you never told them a lie, you know, then it's not even worth entertaining. You probably want to move on from that person, or they're trying to cover up for something. But we got to know how to deal with critique. A grown up, an adult, knows how to deal with critique. And the back and forth, the tit for tat, nobody wins. I've never seen somebody win a tit for tat. Everybody loses, because you only gonna deviate to the point where you're just trying to make the other person mad, or their time. But keep in mind, that's more in a relationship realm. A marriage that's already established, or a relationship that's already established. We're talking about atoning with yourself. And when you in the if you really serious about atoning with yourself, and somebody throws something out there about yourself, 9 times out of 10, you done already covered it with yourself. So you can thank them. Thank you, brother. Thank you, sister. You brought up something I dealt with last month. You know, thank you. You're right. I am that. I was that 6 months ago. You know, I atoned for it last week. So now let's deal with the new me. You know, and what's you know, when is the new you gonna come around the corner? Cause I didn't dealt with the new me. You know, when is the new you coming? When Amazon gonna drop that off? You know what I mean? So, you know, but when you single and you looking forward to a relationship and getting ready for a new relationship, just focus on how you can improve yourself. And if anybody is throwing critique towards you or chastisement, look for the truth in it. Look for the truth in it. So next time they throw it at you, you know they lying. You know they lying. The worst is when you know that they're actually telling the truth. And instead of putting energy in changing that reality and changing that truth, you put that energy in just tit for tat and trying to silence them and get rid of them. That's what the enemy does to our best leaders. That's what the enemy tries to do to Farrakhan. Farrakhan is constantly chastising the enemy. But what the enemy tries to do is just silence him. Let's keep him off Facebook. Let's keep him off YouTube. Let's shut him up. Let's not have him on any of the political talk shows. Let's not broadcast any of his lectures. Let's shut him up. So sometimes you got to deal with the truth. If you're right, and righteousness don't mean perfect. Righteousness means you trying to do right. So if you're trying to do right, you'll tackle truth. You'll run to truth. You know, and ask yourself, is this me? Everything they saying, is this me? If it's not you, then you good. But be honest with yourself. Be honest with yourself. But if you really atoning with yourself, nobody can bring nothing new to your table. Oh yeah, I'm a liar. Yeah, that's what I was last week. I atoned this past weekend, so I'm good now. But thank you for confirming that I needed to atone. But I already did that, or I'm already in the process of that. Yes, ma'am. So now we're gonna go to the last one and the most important one, and we're gonna get up out of here. But I really want to tread lightly on this, or tread carefully on this one. Perfect union with God. That's the 8th step. The result of completing the atonement process is achieving the perfect union with Allah God, who is best at guiding us to freedom. Perfect union with God. Let me say what that doesn't mean before we get into what it does mean. We ain't talking about a spook God. We ain't talking about a mystery God. We're not talking about, now what I hear and I see sometimes is an imaginary friend God. This is this God that, you know, he's God and he's an avenger and he is chastising and judging everybody but you. You know, God ain't your wingman, brother. God ain't that sister who agree with everything you say, sister. You know, ooh, girl, I think he cute. And God is like, yeah, me too. Ooh, girl, I think he ugly. Yeah, girl, I think so too. God ain't that. So a lot of times we try to make him into this imaginary friend where he's always on our side. He's always got our back. He always thinking what we thinking. He's never going to tell us about ourselves. Actually, God is the opposite. They got something called self-accusing spirit. I don't care what religion you claim to believe. I don't care what you call yourself. That self-accusing spirit is that thought in your mind when you do something that you know is wrong, you do something that you know is mean, you do something that you know is disrespectful, and then that thought in the back of your mind. The more righteous you are, the louder that voice is. You know, the more of a devil you are, the more silent that voice is. But that self-accusing spirit, that's who God is. Right. What is your union with him, sister? What's your union with him, bruh? You know, the one that tells you when you do wrong, bruh, that was dumb. That was ignorant. That was wrong. You should apologize. Do you have a relationship with that God? Not the homeboy God. Get rid of him. He's fake. He ain't even real. The girlfriend God. Get rid of her. She's not real, sister. She's not real. The one that tell you you didn't need him anyway. You can do bad all by yourself. That ain't the real God is gonna say, yeah, that person might be what they are, but you this, and this. That's that self-accusing spirit. What is your union with that God? You know, and and the thing about God, God will bring an understanding of God, knowledge of God will bring a criterion to you, which is a standard. It'll bring something to you that says this is how you should be. And you got to work toward that criterion. It ain't no God. Every God, if you ever played sports, or I'm sure everybody watching been to school to some degree, you know, that toughest teacher you ever had, it was hard to pass her class, that hardest coach you ever had, that's God. That God is going to tell you about yourself. Boy, you know you can run faster than that. Oh, you ain't running fast enough. Give me 20. Give me 20 steps. Give me, you know, go hit the sled. Go do this, go do that. That's how God is. God is, I know it's something better in you, and I'm going to mine it out. God ain't a cosigner. We try to turn God into this little silent punk cosigner who just hype man. God ain't no hype man. He ain't Spliff Star. He ain't Flavor Flav. He just, yeah, boy, everything you do, he with it. No, if that's how you see God, that ain't the union that we talking about. We talking about a union with a God that is a self-accusing spirit. And the God is so merciful, he's always going to give you a criterion, which could be a person. It could be a scripture. It could be a thing. It could be a standard, just an overall characteristic standard. You know, he's going to give you a criterion. He wants you to pass the class. He don't want you to fail. You know, but he will fail you if necessary. So he ain't just a cosigner. He ain't your homeboy. He ain't your friend. He ain't your homegirl. So that's what that perfect union with God is, in my humble estimation, when it comes to self-atonement. What do you think?
Right. No, I definitely agree. And the God is so merciful and he's so beautiful. You know, we're taught in the scripture, God says, I only deal or give out like for like. when evil is involved. So what that means is you're only going to get what your hands put forth when you're doing evil. You'll get like for like. But when we do good, God gives us abundance. You can give 10 points worth of good, he's gonna give you 100 back. You know what I'm saying? So he's setting us up not for failure, he's setting us up to win. He's setting us up to become one with him. All we have to do is just strive and try, and we don't have to even be perfect at it, but in our attempt to be, we will gain the perfection and the oneness with him, and that brings me back to the question sister mentioned, like the most honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said, point number one is the hardest point for a lot of people, pointing out the wrong. But if we don't get caught up on that and we overcome that adversity or that difficulty right there in the beginning, we have the opportunity to become one with God and one with others, because Allah didn't put us here on this earth just to be perfect, grand, and exalting and just walking around boastfully. No, he's wanting to perfect us for the same reason that he perfected the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, for the same reason he perfected the ministers and is perfecting the minister in our midst, so that we can see that example and follow it and go and help to bring out the best in others. So it has to, we have to strive hard to get to that step, because it's going to bless us and ultimately it's going to bless the world. Allah, God is here for all of humanity. He's not here just for the original man and woman, the original black man and woman, and the aboriginal people of the world. He is here for all of humanity, and that's why we're striving to perfect each other, perfect ourselves first, so that we can go there forth, shine our light to the rest of the world.
All praises due to Allah. And so we're about to close out, but we got a question from a sister. I'm gonna read it and deal with it. It's a little different from the topic that we on, but it's a deep question. She asked the question: peace and blessings. I really need to know how to separate peacefully while dealing with a person that is very aggressive and angry all the time. I really need to know, because we have 3 kids in this. Well, sister, given the fact that I don't know the other person that's involved, but just based on what you're telling us that they're very aggressive and angry, I'm gonna bring it to the topic that we on right now. Earlier we talked about, self-atoning and forgiving ourselves. I think one mistake that sometimes sisters make with men, and y'all kind of pushed in this direction by society, is thinking that men don't really have emotions, because we play like we all tough and we all hard and all we know how to do is work and fight, watch the Cowboys lose, and that's all we know how to do. No, that brother got emotions too, and it's something I guarantee you that he does not forgive himself for. It could be how he treats you, that he has not forgiven himself for it. He wants to, but he doesn't know that there's something called atonement. I think the last ditch effort, because this is something that's very heavy, sister, and I'm by no means an expert. I want to be clear about that. Neither one of us are. Allah is the best knower. But the last ditch effort is to offer the 8 steps of atonement to this brother. We went over it in this video. You can also Google it. Farrakhan 8 steps of atonement. Just tell him, brother, this is what the minister went over with black people in the 1995 Million Man March. And you be prepared to do it with him. And atone, and go through each step with you. Point out the wrong. Acknowledge the wrong. Give him the chance to vent. Sometimes brothers pin stuff up in them, and then, the only way we know how to respond is being aggressive and being very angry. But I've never, you just can't show me an angry brother or aggressive brother that don't have some kind of issue that they dealing with from the past. Nobody's just automatically angry unless they're an animal. And even animals that are aggressive, they're aggressive for a reason. They in the jungle, they in nature where, you know, only the strong survive. So they feel like I gotta be aggressive or I'm gonna get eaten by an alligator. And there's some men who grow up in environments where they feel like only the strong, only the angry, only the aggressive survive. So I would throw out the opportunity for this brother to atone. And if he just completely don't want to do that, and you have children involved, and sister, I would absolutely, you know, suggest that you get with some type of family, you know, somebody who you can seek refuge with to get away from that situation, because no child needs to see, you know, that kind of thing, because that could become a generational thing, a cyclical thing that happens. You know, if there's a son that you have, that son is seeing that. Son don't need to see that. One of the reasons that, you know, I'm confident that I will never raise my hand to this queen right here is because I didn't grow up seeing that. I had the kind of mama that didn't take that, you know. But if I saw that, if I constantly saw that, even if mama win the fight, if she winning all the fights, but I'm always seeing mama and daddy fighting, I'm gonna grow up thinking that's what a relationship is. So once you get away from him eventually, now your son is coming back to you and saying, mama, I busted my girlfriend upside the head, help me. Or, you know, daughter comes home, mama, he went upside my head, you know, help me. And then she right back with him again. So offer that, you know, atonement, offer atonement with love. You know, don't go to him and brother Landon said you need to atone. No, go to him and say, how about we atone? Because he's angry, and hopefully he ain't just randomly angry. Even then, that proves that it's something going on that he wants to talk about. But man, we just not good at it. We not good at just sitting down and talking. Even if it's our queen, if it's our woman, we just not good in that area. We suck at that. And, you know, and the beauty about a woman, a black woman, an Aboriginal woman, is that sometimes a lot of them put something in y'all that can mine that part of us out in the best way. He put that in y'all, you know. But if he's just really off the handle and you can't even reason with him, and you can't even offer to do something with him, because that's what atonement normally is. It's a two-man sport, a two-person sport. But if it's something that he's not willing to do, because I'm telling you, atonement is very therapeutic, extremely therapeutic. Beloved Western Regional Student Minister Abdul Malik Saeed Muhammad, for the last 25 years, he's been setting up atonement not only between married couples, but even gangs who have been engaged in 30 to 40 year wars, you know, where bodies have been piling up, drive-by shooting after drive-by shooting since the late 70s, and set some of the so-called shot callers at the same table and had them go over those same 8 steps of atonement that we just went through, and you'd be surprised at the outcome. These hardcore, you know, murderers who then either murdered themselves or then put the hit out on another brother, and now they embracing each other with love because they got it all out. They pointed out the wrong, they acknowledged the wrong, they went through all the steps of atonement. You know, and then at the end, they realized, you know what, it wasn't even that big of a deal. We just needed to lay it all out on the table. And men, we don't know how to just automatically do that. And sometimes we need some kind of tool, some kind of resource, some type of system that kind of paint by the numbers to let us know how to get that out there, because we don't just know how to express our feelings. So that's what I would say. If it's beyond that point where he just ain't listening or whatever, sister, you got to get up out of there, you know, because I make fun of it a lot when because it's something that's weaponized and used to turn sisters, black women against black men. But that old saying that you can do bad all by yourself, that's a real thing. That's a real thing. A black woman, any woman, can absolutely do bad all by themselves. Whatever the alternative is to your children coming home to a war between their parents every day, whatever the alternative is better than that. I guarantee you that is nothing for children to see. It's nothing for you to see. There ain't a black woman on this earth that deserves to be aggressed upon and deal with an angry man every day, and he's not willing to do anything to help the situation out. So if you feel like it's beyond the point of helping, of him wanting to do something, but make sure you're ready to do it with him. Don't nobody like self-righteousness where you need to go do this. Don't nobody like how that don't sound good in nobody's ear, even if it's true. Don't nobody like to hear that, because it makes that person feel like they the only bad guy on the planet Earth, and that you're perfect. But when you go to somebody and say, we should atone, that sounds a lot softer in the ears. And when you got steps that have already been set by a neutral party, these ain't 8 things. Point out to him that these are not 8 things that you came up with that you feel like he need to do. These are 8 things that a neutral party, came up with. If you feel like he wouldn't even respect the minister, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, don't even tell him who came up with it. Just say these are 8 steps that I read somewhere, and I think they can work for us. Because I know I've been wrong. Tell the truth. He's probably been way more wrong than you. But just put that out there. I know I've been wrong. You've been wrong. Let's put it all on the table. I think that would be the best thing to do, sister. But under no circumstances should you feel like that you got to sit up there and deal with blatant disrespect or find yourself in a dangerous situation for yourself or for your children. You can absolutely do better than that. It ain't a woman on this planet that cannot. So that's what I would say to that. Anything you want to add to that?
Yes, I concur with everything that my husband just said. What I would like to add is just before you go to him, like we've been talking about this whole entire episode, start the atonement process with yourself and don't make it a long drawn out thing. This when we did our atonement process, it was like an hour. This is just 2 of us going over each step together. So you yourself, you go through the atonement process. I posted some links on the page as my husband was speaking, some video snippets from YouTube of the ministers going in more detail speaking about atonement and the 8 steps for you to be able to go back and refer to. But I would say with yourself, go through the 8 steps of atonement with yourself, because whenever there's 2 parties involved, there's 2 sides to each story. And like he said, I don't know, I'm not there, but I know that, none of us are perfect. So there may be fault within us as well when we're dealing with our spouses, boyfriend, girlfriend, significant other that may trigger that may be helping to trigger and bring forth some of the negative actions that we're receiving. So we've always, none of us are perfect. I would say go through the steps with yourself. Reflect on yourself. Reflect and point out your wrongs, acknowledge your wrongs, forgive yourself, put a plan of action in place to overcome those wrongs and those difficulties, those issues that you have within yourself, and get through all the 8 steps and resolution with yourself, ultimately atonement and oneness with Allah God. And like it says in number 8, with others. Now that you've taken yourself through that process, now you're going to be better equipped to go through the process with him. And again, I don't want to read into it, but the word aggressive, it's kind of like a red flag for me. So because I don't know, if the brother is like physically aggressive, there's a lot of forms of aggression. You can just be raising your voice and all types of jazz. But if it's a physical aggression, I would say do it over the phone, FaceTime, Zoom, you know what I'm saying? And then if you all are able to peacefully get through those 8 steps, then, you know, come together at the end, you know, hug it out, you know, whatever, and strive to move forward. But keep in mind, it's not something that's an overnight process. It's something that has to be in the forefront of our mind each day, and that we're going to have to strive, both you and him, each day, to make sure that you're living out the tenets that you all just went over. And if it is something, because like I said, I don't want to jump the gun or anything, but if it is something physical, like my husband said, no, we don't have to. You can still go through the steps, yes, by all means, but that's not something that you have to or should ever subject yourself to, and especially your children.
And I'm going to close with this. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, when you say aggressive and angry, he told, you know, all those that he was speaking to at this particular lecture, and it was a lecture that was open to the public, so he wasn't just talking to Muslims, he was talking to everybody. He gave an example of how his wife handled his own anger and aggression. He was talking about how he was a young minister in the Nation of Islam and a captain over the FOI. So he was just coming home from drilling the men. You know how the FOI do it, the Nation of Islam. That don't come from just osmosis. That comes from having good and hard captains. So he came home one particular day with that kind of mentality. And he came home and he saw something in the household that he was not happy with. And he was, you know, he kind of aggressed upon her, his wife, Mother Khadijah, and he was angry. And, you know, he didn't put his hands on her, but he was angry. He probably raised his voice. But here's what she did. Nothing. At that particular moment, she did nothing. She just took it on the chin, so to speak. She dealt with it, but then she came back to him later when he calmed down. So don't come at him with anything, 8 steps of atonement, anything when he on one. You know, I get a little upset and angry sometimes. So don't come to him when he's on fire. You know, when he ain't trying to hear nothing, because it's intoxicating when you get into your feelings, when you get into your emotions. Wait for him to calm down. You know, he got something in his stomach. He didn't ate. He's a little bit more relaxed, and just say, hey, you know, I feel like we both, you know, really put it, you know, just for the sake of politics. We got to do politics in the household too. Say, you know what, there's some things I want to atone for. And I think we should do this, you know, 8 steps of atonement, because there's some things that I want to apologize and atone for. He may not be used to that word atonement, but we all know what apologize means. So that'll open them up a little bit. But when you pointed out that it's a team effort, that it's something that both of y'all are going to do, he may be more willing to do it. But make sure he's not bouncing off the walls mad at that point, because you can't bring nothing to him. You know, when we get mad, male or female, you can say, but baby, the grass is green and the sky is blue. They will argue with you about that. You know, they say F the sky and F the grass, and, you know, and still be mad. So pick the right time to bring it to them.
And like I said, if it is a physical thing, then it's beyond, you know, the atonement. You have to get to a base, a neutral space first before you can even go to atonement. If it is a physical thing, and especially because you have children, of course your own safety and survival comes first and foremost. Absolutely. But once you have children, then that they take precedence even over you. So if it's like, oh, I love him so much, and if it's moving, if it's a physical thing and it's been with you and now it's moving to your children, that's just, I mean, it ain't even no grand explanation behind it.
Right.
You have to just pack up and keep it moving.
Absolutely.
And then after that, and you all are safe and secure, you know, and some time has passed and you all have gotten to a base, a neutral point, then you all can talk about the atonement. But the first things first is just getting safe and secure, protecting your children and protecting yourself. Because once Allah God blesses us with children, they are our first and foremost responsibility. And you know, it don't matter how long we've been together, how much our heart longs for this person, or whatever the case may be, you got to get safe and get clear and just, I mean, and hey, just pick up and go. You know, the best time he gone. All right, and now let's go somewhere safe.
If it's really,
stick with that.
If it's really not a safe environment at all, and it's beyond the point of atonement or whatever, then you know, get the hell up out of there. Don't telegraph your moves.
Right.
Don't say I'm gonna leave tomorrow. I'm gonna leave next week if you don't start. No, if it's really that bad, start making whatever you can do. Start making plans and maneuvers to get away from the situation. So like my wife said, you could probably end up doing atonement later, because that's what really wakes us up sometimes, when we lose something that was really good that we had, and then we come home to that empty, cold house, and you know, no children running around, no love in the house, and we've been so used to it for 20-some years. That'll wake a brother up sometimes. It'll be like a cold splash of water in the face. But get on. Don't sit around. If it's beyond the point of atonement and working something out, then get away. Because getting away doesn't automatically mean breaking up or divorce. It could lead to that. That's a good first step. But get away first if it's a dangerous situation. Absolutely. But with that said, family, we went a little longer than we intended, but we appreciate all the questions and comments. I pray that it was helpful. Let's pray for each other. Yes. You know, just as black folks, just as Aboriginal folks, and let's make sure that we are atoning with ourselves. Atoning with ourselves. That'll make us a pretty little package for whoever else we run into in our lives. It'll make us a better husband, a better wife, better friend, better son, better daughter, better uncle, better auntie, all of that. Let's atone with ourselves. With that said, I leave you as I greeted you with the words of peace. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
I was told to deliver this message.